Alright, so it looks like I have another project on my hands here. You can see this little trailer I've got. It's actually a pretty nice trailer, very solid built, pretty good size. Takes a 1 7/8 ball, but I'm going to use it to pull behind one of my lawn tractors. But you can see it is covered in rust. I mean, I don't know how old this thing is. I tried to look it up. It was from a manufacturer. This is something like Riverside or something in Iowa. But I kept, just out of curiosity, searched, but couldn't find anything about them. But it's actually made very well. It's pretty sturdy, but you can see it just has a lot of surface rust on it. So I've tried other, rust converter and rust restorer before, Rust-Oleum and Krylon paint. And one of them I use actually quite a bit. But this time, this is kind of a bigger project. I'll show you even the inside. I mean, everything around this trailer is covered in rust. No rust throughs, just a lot of surface rust. So I'm going to try this stuff this time. It's a Krud Kutter Rust-X rust converter. So, when I apply it, it takes 24 hours. Then you come back and look at it and then see if you need to put another coat on it. But it's very liquidy, and it looks like you can either brush it on. I decided to put it in one of my little sprayers, and I'm spraying it on. It already has the first coat on it, and I'm just going to wait 24 hours like the instruction says, and at least on the fender wells and on the sides. I haven't touched the inside of it yet. But this stuff, the Rust-X, I haven't used it before, but looking at it, it says it chemically changes the rust, which is iron oxide, and it chemically treats it, changes it into iron phosphate. And I've seen some others that kind of do the same thing. And this was actually quite affordable. We'll see what happens. Sometimes in rust this thick, I've heard it takes two or three treatments. And I only got a quart of it, but I'm going to be doing my trailer here, and I have a John Deere tractor that I just treated also. But we'll go back and forth, and we'll see the results. You can see this trailer is just rusted all the way around, and on the inside, just no through rust. So this is what it's looking like before the treatment. Okay, so this is 24 hours later, and it doesn't look like anything has happened with the rust. Now I just sprayed on one coat, and I took the wheels off. You can see there. The only difference I can see, you can see this white residue there, and I heard that would happen, but I was really expecting to see some advancement on the rust. But that's 24 hours, so I'm going to get back with a wire brush, scrub it all down again, and put another coat, do another treatment, and see how that does. So, sorry about the noise there. That's the AC. It's hot out here today, but you can see here's the John Deere. That I just treated for rust also, and you can see there, it might look like a glare, but it looks like it's actually doing something already. So here's a better shot from that John Deere. You can see the difference here. Here's where I treated the rust. This was before I took this foot plate off. I did not brush it down, didn't do anything. I just applied the Krud Kutter rust stuff on it. And you can see the difference, you know, after I took the foot plate off and I cleaned off, you know, all the paint that was bubbling up, and you can see the rust under there. And it's real light. It's not, you know, it's not thick, the same as over here, but you can see how it definitely changed the rust over. Okay, here's another rust project I'm going to tackle here. Now this is a different one I've used in the past. This is Evapo-Rust. It's non-toxic, biodegradable, all that good stuff. So this thing is a rust remover. Some other ones are converters, or but this one actually is a remover. And the difference is, well, you'll see. It takes a while. You put it in there. It's real. You can hear it sloshing around. Very much a liquid state. And you use it for tools. I'm going to use it for hardware here. These are some bolts, and you know, instead of converting the rust, this stuff I want to just go ahead and remove it. All right. So that's when I'm going to use this. Now I've used this before also on the inside of a gas tank that had rusted on the inside. So I poured some of this stuff in there and, you know, sloshed it around and let it sit, you know, rotating it around on its side and over, all that stuff, the gas tank, that is. And it was pretty effective. It got rid of the rust, and once it dried, you know, I washed it out, dried it, and then put a sealer on the inside of the tank, and it worked great. So this stuff, I'm just going to put it in this little bowl, and we'll check on it here. I'll give it, you know, 24 hours, and we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, it's a yellowish greenish look to it, and that should be enough. It's enough to cover the heads of those bolts. Okay, so here's the results on the Evapo-Rust. Remember the lug nuts? I took them off that rusty old trailer, and I had these soaking in Evapo-Rust, and it was actually quite a long time, at least 2 days. I lost count. Might have been 3 days, but take a look at that. I mean, it just really took the majority. This one still has a little bit on it, but most of these, I mean, it's 100% difference. So here's some results from the Krud Kutter Rust-X, and these wheels that came off the trailer, and it was pretty bad, but you can tell this is after about 3 treatments on both of those. Now they're turning black in some sections, but for the most part you can see this white, you know, residue buildup, and so it was a pretty tough job. I'm going to go back over it with a wire brush and then do another treatment. But from what I can see, the Krud Kutter stuff works, but it does take quite a few treatments and some labor involved with, you know, with a wire brush, or, you know, sanding it off or whatever. So just beware. If it's a real heavy job, there's still a lot of labor involved. On light rust jobs, it might do it just in one treatment, but it works, but it does take a little labor. So here's another shot from the trailer I was working on. This is after a treatment of the Krud Kutter, and what I noticed, now I sprayed it on just like I did on the outside, on the sides here, before I painted it. Now it looks like the bottom, that flat bottom level where the or I guess where the liquid would stay there for a little while, it looks like it did a really good job. And this is after, you can see that residue that's on there. Get a wire brush out of it, and it looks like it really did a good job on getting rid of the rust or neutralizing it. The sides here still need some work, but I'm surprised. I mean, this is where I sprayed it on, and it looks like it just where it just ran down the sides too quickly and didn't give it time to set like it did on the bottom here. So keep that in mind. Seems to do good if it'll sit there for a little while. I ran into the same problem on the outside of this. The rust came off pretty good on the wheel wells, but on the sides, no, it took a little more work. So overall though, it is doing its job. So after I finish scrubbing this down, I plan on spraying some of this stuff over it. The rust reformer. It looks like the packaging is a little different on the can, but I'm assuming it's the same stuff I was using before. Then once that's dry, I'll go back and put the truck bed liner over on the inside of this, on the bed of this trailer, and it'll be just about finished. Alright, so this is 99% done. You can see it painted up pretty well after the rust treatment. And I put the truck bed liner stuff on the inside. Oh, there goes our AC. On the inside and underneath. But it basically did a pretty good job. Hopefully the rust stuff will do its job. But it painted up pretty nicely. I'm sure there's plenty of paint and body guys that are cringing over what I did, but considering that this trailer is just going to go back to some heavy use and probably get scratched up again, but that's how that turned out. And this is how the John Deere L120 came out. You can see I've already used this and got all dusty again, but you can see it painted over pretty well. Hopefully I got all the rust knocked out of there. Did a pretty good job underneath too. I think there's still going to be some rust pop up. I can see where the paint's starting to bubble right here. But overall, for a quick job, it turned out okay. So I used 3 different products to treat the rust on this project. 2 of the products are rust converters and 1 is a rust remover. And when you're trying to consider which one to use, say if it's pretty heavy rust and you think by removing the rust it's going to be the sheet metal will be too thin or it's going to weaken the part, then try a rust converter. So the mass, it won't just all fall apart, you know what I mean? But a lot of times with the sheet metal items and light duty stuff, I'll just use the Rust-Oleum reformer and give it a quick coating, and it can be used as a primer, before you paint over it. Now the other stuff, some of the stuff like the Crud Cutter Rust-X, you have to make sure that you leave it overnight, and it might take multiple treatments. On heavy jobs, it'll need some brushing, some sanding off, so there is a bit of labor involved. It isn't just a spray on and wash off treatment. And also on vertical walls where the liquid drains off fast, it will not be too effective. Now you could probably try to soaking a paper towel and letting it sit on the surface. Maybe that'll give it a little more time to do its thing before it all runs off. And with this stuff, I did not try submerging anything into it, like, you know, some bolts or hardware or tools. So it might be effective. I didn't try that yet. But for the hardware and the smaller stuff, I tried the EvapoRust. Now the EvapoRust works well, I guess, for items that you can submerge and let it sit overnight. If you have some larger items, of course, you'll need some more liquid. But keep in mind that you can reuse the EvapoRust, so it isn't just a one-time use. I mean, you can use it and save up, you know, and store it. Now, I don't know, you know, the saturation point or when it will stop working, so just use it on a case-by-case basis. And but it's pretty good stuff. So you can see there's a lot of different rust treatment products out there to try, and most will be pretty effective. Just keep in mind that it's the method of application and the process time. It'll make the big difference. Just think about what you're trying to do, and try some of them out.